Okay, so thank you guys again for joining me. I really appreciate it. I cannot thank you enough, and I will always thank you for actually taking time out your day and visiting my page. So happy. So I was given the option to go live. However, because I'm under 1,000 subscribers, I am only able to give my live to those who subscribe. And as you can see, I have less than 100 subscribers. So the only audience that would have been receiving my my talk today would have been most likely the public, but the only ones that would have been able to comment would have only been my subscribers. So therefore, I don't think I'm ready to go live because I would like to have engagement from everyone. Okay, so I'm gonna just tell you what's on today's agenda so we can proceed. Okay, so today's agenda is gonna be one thing and one thing only, and that is my progress on the update on doing my add-on service that I'm trying to do, which is the waste transport of hazardous material. Okay, so that form is called 6NYCRR Part 364/381. It's actually called the Waste Transporter Permit Application, and is given by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Division of Material Management. Okay, so just a quick background on exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to accomplish an add-on service to my existing medical courier service. That entails me filing for permits, which requires to be regulated by both state and federal. Okay, so I'm going to give you a rundown exactly my progress on where I am thus far and how the form looked and the format of the application process. Okay. So the waste transport application, it details exactly what type of waste that you are trying to transport. Okay, so there are three options of medical waste, pharmaceutical waste, and hazardous waste. So you can transport either of the three, and each category have an entire replica of what falls in each category. Okay, so the medical waste is like sharps, blood, soil materials, whereas the pharmaceutical waste is expired medication, maybe punctured medication that can't be used. And obviously hazardous material is exactly in its word. It's hazardous material. An example of that probably can be like radiation for like, cancer patients or whoever else need like radiation materials. The hazardous materials require the Department of Transportation to pass your vehicle. You need placate cards to be tagged on your actual vehicle. And, so there's a lot of things to abide by when you are trying to transport waste, hazardous waste material. Okay, so in my case, D&M Medical Courier Service, we're trying to add on medical waste material, or MRW, which stands for regulated waste material. So that's again blood such as like sharps and soil like linen or soil materials that cannot just be disposed of regularly in the garbage. Again, you need permits for these things. Okay, so thus the inquiry started, and the inquiry included a form that had to be filled out. And check out this form here. This is what I'm speaking of. Check it out. The form actually is self-explanatory. At least the first part of the form is self-explanatory. It basically asks, are you a new person trying to receive a permit, or are you an existing carrier of this permit and you are trying to modify said permit? Obviously, I'm new, so I checked box 1 and we moved on. Everything was self-explanatory, free-flowing until we actually got to the part where you had to choose exactly what you're asking for. Okay, take a look at that. Take a look at that for me, please. Okay, so you guys see the entire list of all of these different wastes that you have to choose which one you are asking permission to drive around, pick up and deliver, transport. Okay, so on the list, there's obviously, as I told you, the hazardous waste. We're just going to skip down to what pertains to us. Excuse me, and that's the hazardous waste, which I initially thought was us, and that was solid waste. That is RC, RA, or NYS hazardous waste as defined in Part 371 of this title, meaning the actual form that we are referring to. Sorry, the check box that we are trying to accomplish is the regulated medical waste. Okay, so the RMW. Okay, so the waste material box that we are trying to check off is the regulated medical waste, or the regulated MW. Okay, so is that us? Probably not. I don't know. Again, real time, guys. I'm doing this for the first time. It's the first time I'm looking at this form the day that I did it. So I'm just like, wait, I think that's us, but it can possibly be the industrial commercial waste as well. And that means waste which originate at, is generated by, or occurs as a result of any industrial or commercial activities. Example would include, but not limited to, pharmaceutical waste, rendering waste, waste for household hazardous waste collection events, treated medical waste. That makes more sense. Long story short, I was conflicted by those two options. All the other options up there obviously was not applicable. However, those two were or could have been. Also, the hazardous waste I was kind of inquiring about, because for some reason I thought this transport permit that I'm trying to obtain included me putting play cards on my vehicle, which would include me carrying around hazardous waste. Obviously, when I say me, I mean my staff carrying around hazardous waste material. Okay, and that obviously means soil, the hazardous waste option. So it's just hard to try to decipher exactly what you want, but for the sake of this YouTube today, I rather take this easier route, just for the add-on, and obviously you can constantly and always add on thereafter, but you just want to get regulated, right? And once you're regulated, obviously the add-ons would bring more money to your business, because there's only a selected few transport waste companies in New York City, because the medical courier field is so saturated. There's always work, don't get me wrong. However, the baseline is the baseline. And when you have add-on services, you can just always make more money, bringing your margarine like it's butter. No, it's not. Bringing your margin wider. And that's all you want. You want a profitable existing business, and you want to make sure that you render services that would maximize your profitable potential. Okay. Submitting this form included also upping my liability for my insurance. So when you are carrying around or adding on materials that were not originally in your liability insurance, because you are a medical courier company and you just transporting medical material that is not deemed hazardous, or it does not have to be regulated by a federal or state agency or both, or to have a third party like the Department of Conservation give you the thumbs up when other entities are involved. That requires your liability to go up. So my existing medical courier service has liability, which require you to have a minimum of $100,000 for the policy or bond to be limited to. Okay, so that's what we have existing. However, when you do add-on services that include hazardous material, the liability insurance now goes up. Okay, which makes sense because things happen and you always want to protect your staff in the event of something occurring. So that requires $1 million liability. Okay, so that was a stopgap for me because my insurance only, as I stated, covered $100K. Okay? I am going to let you guys look at exactly what I'm referring to. Okay, so look at this page. It says limited liability. It says limited insurance, and it will tell you exactly what I'm referring to. Okay, so if you see, it shows $1 million for the transport of waste and or hazardous waste, not requiring hazardous waste manifest. 2, you need policy or bond limits shall be $5 million for transport of hazardous waste requiring a hazardous waste manifest or low-level radioactive waste in any vehicle which exceeds 10,000 pounds maximum gross weight. 3, $1 million for the transport of hazardous waste or low-level radioactive waste which does not exceed 10,000 pounds maximum gross weight. Number 4 is $100,000 for the transport of regulated waste material. And 5 is policies of insurance. Surety bonds must remain in effect throughout the term of this permit. So we're not going to go into surety bonds for this video. There's a lot, but it's not a lot. It's doable. It's just, you have to just do what you have to do. And lastly, I just want to show you guys that while you have regular insurance for your company, when you hire people to work for you, you are required to have workers' compensation insurance as well for all transporters. Okay, so just imagine working at your employer in the state of New York or any state for that matter, and your employer, you get hurt at work and your employer do not have any type of connections with the Department of Labor. That means you will not be compensated while you're out of work because there's no connection with the employer nor workers' compensation. To run a LLC, that's actually illegal to not have workers' compensation set up for your employers. Obviously, as I stated, you need that type of insurance because there's possibilities of, incidents that may occur, etc. Yeah, so we will discuss the surety bonds another video. So workers' compensation is a requirement, okay? So just to give you a rundown of exactly what we discussed today or went after, that's the waste transport permit that I'm trying to accomplish so I can have that as an add-on service to my existing medical courier business. And that will maximize the margin profit in my company tremendously from where it is currently to actually having it as an add-on service. The requirements to get this permit is a lot. However, it's doable. It's not where you just cannot overcome. There's And especially when you're doing it alone and you're trying to figure it out by yourself, it's easy to hire a lawyer to make sure your paperwork is correctly done. That is something that I refuse to do because it's called reading, applying. And if you don't get it right, obviously you will get the kickback and you would just have to do it again, which is fine. So this form was kicked back to me because it was dated August 2022, and that was the last time it was revised, August of 2022. Now I noticed the date obviously is 3 years outdated as far as the revision and the actual form. So what I did was, because I deal with forms naturally and the date of the editions of the forms are important, I called to make sure that was the actual form and there wasn't any updated versions. And according to the representative of who I spoke to, they also indicated that this form is the most current form. Again, it was revised August of 2022. I spoke to the wrong receptionist. Okay, so this was a quick video. Again, I am so busy today. I'm running and gunning, and when you only have 48 hours off and you work 5 days a week, you have no time to do anything. But it was so important for me to always take out time for you guys because this is what I said I was going to do, and it's important to me that I follow through and make sure it's done. Okay, so this is not a long, drawn out video. It's just me giving you guys updates on my existing medical courier service because we are doing things in real time. And this is a way to have passive income. And this is one stream of having passive income. However, there will be many other ventures. I get it. Everyone is not into the whole medical courier venture. However, I'm just not going to move on until this is like up and running at its highest level. And I believe the highest level is having add-on services that other medical courier services do not offer. It's so important to, be different when you're doing the same thing as others. So you have to be able to stand out. Okay, so this is our way of standing out by adding a service. And I know it will render a profitable margin from existing medical courier businesses, and mostly our existing medical courier business. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. I'll give you an update next week on what's going on. It will be one day, maybe in October. I will show you books and numbers of this medical courier service and what is giving. Okay, so I just want to be open with you guys. I want you guys to be mindful and knowledgeable of my journey because we're doing this together. That was the whole niche I had when I had to find one, and this is the niche that I love because I've always been into passive income and finding like streams of passive income, multiple streams. But my problem was once before is I have one idea, and before I complete that idea, I jump to the next one, and next thing you know, you're all over the place and everything is watered down. And once it's watered down, it just doesn't have the same taste. So eventually it just fades away. So this time around, because my audience is watching me and I already stated that we're in this together, the medical courier venture will be finalized before we move on to the next one. Okay, so thanks for watching. It's always so enjoyable speaking to you all. When I say I love it, I love it. I love talking to you guys. I love giving you guys updates, real-time updates. And I love the fact that you guys sit around and like listen and watch. Okay, so until next time, Passive Income Community, I love you guys. And I'll speak to you next Saturday. Love you guys. Bye.